One time, in the Gospel of Luke, a huge crowd of thousands showed up to hear Jesus teach. It must have been a pretty crazy situation. The Bible says that there were so many people that they were crushing each other. I've never been to a theological mosh pit, but I'm pretty sure it would have looked just like this. Luke says that as the crowds were gathering, Jesus started talking to his disciples when someone shouted to him from the crowd, Jesus! Hey, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. In the Bible, the oldest son of a family got twice as much as everyone else. So I'm betting this heckler was a younger brother who was ticked that his big brother got more than he did. Typical little brother, if you ask me. Hi, I'm Jessie. Welcome back to Theo Academy's Confirmation series. As Jesus often did, instead of giving someone a straight answer, he told Mr. I want more inheritance a story instead. He said there once was a man whose fields had given him a lot of grain. He had more grain than his already big storehouses could hold. Remember in our lesson on sacraments when we talked about how important bread was? Bread and grain were often used as a form of money. This guy had a lot of money. So in trying to come up with an idea about what to do, he decided he would tear down the already big storehouses he had and build even bigger ones. He said, I will say to myself, Self, you have done well. Take it easy, eat, drink, and enjoy yourself. But Jesus called this man a fool. To us, calling someone a fool doesn't sound like a big deal. But in the Bible, the word fool meant someone who was not only unbelievably stupid, but someone who was generally a horrible human being. I'm sure we could think of a few modern equivalents, but I'd like to not receive visits from your parents for teaching you how to call people names. Let me put it this way. These are the kind of names you get expelled from school for using. Okay? So, Jesus calls this guy a fool and tells everyone that he is not a good example for them to follow. He says that this guy has tried to make sure nothing could ever happen to this large harvest he had, but he's only going to die and can't take it with him. Jesus is not impressed by this man. Jesus turns to Mr. I want more inheritance and tells him to watch out that he doesn't become greedy. Life, he says, is not determined by how much bling you have. Bling, bling, bling. And for Presbyterians, this idea is very important. For Presbyterians, one of the great themes of our tradition is that we should try to avoid being greedy and showing off what we have. We call this shunning ostentation.
Ask the pastor.
How would you define ostentation?
Ostentation is kind of showing off how much I have or how great I am, or kind of putting me above you or other people.
If you were going to come in here really ostentatious, you might have a diamond jacket, and you might decorate your hat with $100 bills, and just lots of flair and
So very showy.
Showy, yep.
Is this about bling?
Bling bling, he's wearing the bling.
It could be about bling, yes. It can also be, though, we can be ostentatious in other ways, but the easiest way thinking about stewardship is bling, yes.
I mean, it can be, but I don't want to necessarily say that ostentation equals taking care of yourself and making yourself look beautiful, particularly as a woman. I don't think that's necessarily ostentation. But yes, if you're going to have a blinged out communion table and blinged out glasses and blinged out pulpits and it's just gold everywhere and all of that thing, yes, that would be ostentation.
Okay.
If stewardship is not about being ostentatious, which it's not, I assume, then why do we have, in some churches, gold-plated communionware?
It's a way of showing visually that this is something of worth.
Okay.
Because gold is easily, and was easily recognizable and meant something was important.
remember about reading about how the temple was put together. We've always had this sense that anything that's in service to God needs somehow to be beautiful, precious, that kind of thing.
At the same time, when we're at the communion table and we're talking about being with Jesus in the moment that he shared with his friends in an upper room in Jerusalem, do you think they had gold cups? Probably not.
But yeah, everything we do in this church, how we spend our money, we have to think about, are we doing this for God's glory, or are we doing this because we want to look better than the church down the street?
I like nice things. There's a lot of things that are rather expensive that I like. So is it bad for me to own these nice things?
It's okay to have nice things, as long as you remember where they come from.
I think, though, when your life becomes about the things, and that's the most important, about getting the next thing, then it is a problem.
Does that mean being poor is better?
Sometimes we romanticize. Sometimes Christians might say, oh, poor people, they're just closer to God. But really being poor is really hard. And I think we should be more concerned with why some people are poor.
I mean, being poor is not better, because being poor means we spend our whole lives trying to have enough for the next meal or pay the rent so that we have a roof over our heads. I mean, we're lucky that we don't have to do that. But if I'm only interested in getting more and having more than you, that's where my problem comes. If I understand that everything I have is a gift from God and I can use it to help other people, even though I have a good house and I have nice clothes and a car that I can drive wherever I want, if I understand that God has given me things to help other people too, that is what's important.
Gerard, would you hold on a minute? I'd like to ask you something.
Yeah, sure. I'll catch up with you in a second. Save me a seat. What's up, Pastor Felix?
Gerard, is there anything wrong?
No. Why?
Well, you just seem different these last few weeks.
Different? How?
Well, the last few weeks you've been coming to class with something to show off.
Look at this new camera I got. Look at this new MP3 player I got. Look at this new zombie hand I got.
And then today you arrive with a stack of money you wanted to show off. I don't know if you noticed, but it made the other kids not feel very good.
Why didn't they feel very good?
Because, Gerard, no one likes a braggart.
But I got some really cool stuff. Can I have cool stuff?
Oh, yes, Gerard. Of course you can. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that God does not want us to be a show-off. When we brag all the time about the nice things we have, we make other people jealous. And a lot of the time people are jealous because deep down they are afraid they will not have enough. And you know what they say about fear, Gerard, don't you?
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
You got it. Please don't lead us to the dark side, Gerard.
Jesus' concern for our greed isn't just because he doesn't want us to be fools like the man in the story. I think his concern runs deeper than that. Think about it. No one likes hanging around the guy who is always talking about the stuff he has. No one likes that girl who's always bragging that her stuff is better than your stuff. Jesus' concern for us is really about what we value. Do we value things or people? In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus encourages us not to spend our energy collecting treasures on earth. He says that stuff doesn't matter because it'll all just break and rust anyway. He says to make our treasures those things that are important to God. And what is important to God is other people. He says whatever we think of as our treasures will be the focus of all our attention. In this sermon, he says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The Bible is not saying we can't have things, let alone things we enjoy. But when we talk about shunning ostentation, we're being told that those things should never come at the expense of our ability to help other people. If there is a choice between ourselves and someone else, we choose the other person. Because in the end, none of this stuff we have is ours. It's all God's. And God didn't give it to us just to make us happy. We were given these gifts for a purpose. It's like that dollar the little girl asked for from her mom. God is okay giving it to us, is thrilled about it as a matter of fact, but we can't think that we get to just walk off with it. By practicing shunning ostentation, we're trying to remember that this is God's world and God is the one in charge. We just get to help out. Bling, 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 bling. Bling, 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 bling.